Folks, you know how we do. I always have the heavy hitters. This is Black History Month, and we're definitely got a big time guest on for you today. You're probably wondering, who else could you come in? I'm telling you, I'll bring people from the West Coast, East Coast, all over the United States, because I want our listeners to understand and learn that we have amazing people doing amazing things out here. And so, next voice you'll hear will be this amazing gentleman who's doing so many great things. When I first met him, I was like, I need to get your autograph. So after these messages, we'll talk to the guest.
No Picks After Dark is sponsored by Snug Books, an independent bookstore serving Northeast Baltimore and beyond. In addition to featuring new books for all ages, the store also carries cards, stationery, gifts, games, and more. Visit snugbooks.com to shop online, learn more about the store, read our latest newsletter, and find a calendar of events, or come browse the store in person. Snug Books is located at 4717 Harford Road, next to Zeke's Coffee in Hamilton, Laurelville. There is free parking behind the store, and opening hours are Tuesday through Sunday, 10 a.m. to 6 p.m.
Welcome to the NoPixAfterDark podcast. I'm your host, Aaron Dante. So we have an amazing show for you. I met this brother at the Maryland Zoo. I was impressed right away. He was telling me his story about becoming a zookeeper, and just everything was so just inspirational. I had to get him on the show. And I met him in the summertime, and it was hot. You know how Baltimore summer is hot. So he came from the West Coast. He got that humidity hit him. So without further ado, Mr. Jungle Gordon, how are you, sir?
What's going on, man?
Hey.
I'm definitely not hot like I was then. I was going through it.
Oh yeah, you got that Baltimore humidity, man. It's no joke when it gets hot out here, man.
It was tough.
But thank you so much. This has been an episode in the making a long time. We met this summer. Was that in August or July, August?
That was at the end of August for the AZA conference that was being hosted by the Maryland Zoo and the National Aquarium.
Yes. Shout out to Mike Evans for making the connection to us. And thank you so much. I always wanted to have you on. Me even talking back and forth. But I told you I wanted to have you for Black History Month. And that was very important to me, because I think my listeners need really, and maybe you write what you say in your bio. If one kid, you could touch one kid, or somebody out there listening or reading or seeing what's going on, then you've made a difference.
Right.
So you made a difference on me. So hey, I got me out there, lions and bears and tigers on my but thank you so much for coming on the show this evening. So let's get right into it. Tell the audience, my audience, a little bit about you.
So a little bit about me. As you said, Aaron, I am a zookeeper, born and raised in Seattle, Washington. Lived here my entire life. I have never left. Like at least never lived outside of here. I kind of want to move, but I kind of want some, everyday sun. But I grew up just obsessed with animals, and I had a mission to not only work directly with them, but I wanted to educate people about them. So that's kind of why I created the name Jungle Jordan, to get on social media and just make videos about animals.
Wow. And what zoo do you work at right now?
Currently, I work at a smaller facility called Cougar Mountain Zoo. It's in Washington. I've worked actually at every accredited zoo here in Washington, Woodland Park, Point Defiance, Northwest Trek. I've been all over.
All right. So I always ask every person that comes on the show, what is your favorite childhood memory growing up?
My favorite childhood memory probably would have to be just walking around the zoo. Specifically, I remember being like a 5-year-old. My mom and grandmother always tell me that I would be just a 5-year-old, just seeing all of these animals up close. And one thing that I used to do was I would talk to strangers about the animals that we were standing in front of, like specifically the elephants or the hippos. And I would just say, hey, did you know they can hold their breath for 3 to 5 hours? And like just a little 5-year-old me just walking around the zoo. And it's kind of, I think I've always had that passion to talk to people about animals. that was one of my favorite things in the movie Free Willy. That
Okay.
was a big thing, but then I learned that, I think every kid at that point wanted something to do with, marine mammals or marine biology, and I was like, I don't really want to deal with the water. I can swim, but I don't really want to. I'm good. The water's too deep and unknown.
No, I love hearing that. I love learning about a little bit of background about yourself. And like, so how did you get interested in animals at a young age? And like, what was a passion? The story you told me was just, I mean, I'm
Yeah.
not going to take, I'm going to let you tell the story because
Okay.
it blew me away. And it's to this day, I still talk about it. And it was just really impactful because I told you a little bit about my life, personal life. And
Okay.
so tell a little bit, give always a little bit of background about how
Okay.
the animals in the zoo, like how did you got involved with that at a young age?
Right. So, growing up, I did have that love for animals and watching animal documentaries, and I was pretty much obsessed with animals. And growing up, I had anger management problems and ADHD. And so, kids growing up where I grew up, it wasn't like, cool to like animals. So they kind of teased me for that. But then on top of that, kids would like poke at me to make me angry. They thought it was funny to see how mad it was, like an immediate switch that I would just turn and straight in rage and throw things and fight people, and they thought it was funny. So my mom was trying to find an outlet for me that that could help me focus and get into my passions, instead of being called out by teachers and suspended and expelled from schools and all these different things. And she reached out to my local zoo over here in Seattle, and she wanted to see if they would take on a young volunteer. I was 11 at the time. She reached out. They they got back to her. They're like, no, he's way too young. That's not what we do. We don't take 11-year-olds as volunteers. But my mom kept pushing and pushing and pushing, and eventually they were like, okay, well, let's talk to the staff that work in this area. Let's see if we can actually make something happen. So they reached out to the keepers that worked in the family farm area. So that's like where the goats and sheep are. So they said, hey, you guys want to watch this kid for a little bit and see how he does. So they said, yeah, let's do it. I came in, I walked around, I was hanging out with some of the keepers, and I got to help out with the sheep and the goats and what we call the contact area. So that's the area where people get to come in, like the petting zoo. They get to come touch the animals. And so that was the summer, and that was my first day. And basically, they said, yeah, let's if he wants to come back, let him come back. And I did every day that summer, and I became the youngest volunteer, I believe, in their history. And that so with my mom doing that, I didn't really think about this until later in life. So I used to get suspended all the time, right, from school. I used to get into all these fights, but I look back on it, that summer, I hadn't gotten suspended anymore.
Mm.
There were a couple like small altercations here and there, but nothing to where it was my fault. I was defending myself, and I was not kicked out of school. And I basically came to the conclusion that animals kind of saved my life in a sense of, kept me from going down a darker path. Uh, I always felt like they were misunderstood because people in our community didn't really understand animals. They feared them. They didn't like them. Black people don't mess with animals, right? That's how it was. So,
Mhm.
and I felt different, like they did, like the animals, are treated. So I made that connection with them, and that's kind of, I wanted to dedicate my life to getting focus on the animals, working with them and helping others like myself get involved with things that they care about.
Wow. Well, and then you hit it home. My parents did not let me have any animals. The
Yeah.
only animal that I had in my house was goldfish.
Yeah.
And that was the extent of the animal tree was the goldfish.
Right.
So I definitely understand that. We didn't really go to the zoo as much growing up. We went to SeaWorld out in San Diego, and there was one in Ohio, I think, back in the day,
Yeah, a long time ago.
a long time ago. So now I'm telling my age now, and I remember like wow, looking at the make sure I say it correct. It was Shamu. And what
Shamu.
was Shamu? Is a killer whale?
Killer whale,
Killer
aka
whale.
orca.
Orca,
And they're
yes.
not, because they're not actually whales. It's like a big dolphin, basically.
Yes, big dolphin. And I remember like being like, wow, that is so cool. I want to swim with the dolphins, and reading like how dolphins actually save humans from sharks. And you read all this stuff when you're younger, National Geographic. We don't have internet back in the day. We don't have all that stuff. You just read books. You read what's out there, So I remember. So I love hearing your story. I love how that you've reflected how that helped animals helped you as far as getting through. Now, did that propel you when you went to college at the University of Washington? Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. And did that propel you to study more about like environmental things or animals? How did that translate going to college?
So going to college, when I got accepted into UW, first off, I didn't know how I was going to pay for school at first. So I just kind of busted my butt and applied for a lot of different scholarships here and there. I remember one day I was a senior in high school and I was in class, and for some reason the track coach came and found me while I was in the middle of like transitioning between classes. I didn't run track. Okay. I played baseball in that season in spring. And I guess he asked around the school and was like, hey, do you guys know any outstanding, Black males who are going to college? They asked teachers, and some people said my name. So he came and found me, and he presented me with this scholarship application. He said, hey, the due date is today, but I really think you should apply for this. And so if I mailed it, it would have been late. So I filled it out and I drove it. This is because I was a senior. I had a car already. I drove all the way to a different city, outside of Seattle to deliver this thing. And it turned out that I ended up getting that scholarship, which was a full ride. So I got lucky. It was an academic scholarship. So I got lucky and I got to go to school. But while I got there, I learned in college that they no longer offered zoology as a major, because that's, in my head, that's what I thought I had to do to become a zookeeper. So I went to my advisor at the time. He was like, oh, I don't know. I don't know what you should do. I was like, okay. So I just chose my backup for a moment while I could try to find my degree. And it was computer science. And I took one programming class and I was like, oh, this ain't for me. So I learned really quick that I was good with computers, but not programming. So that was fast. I ended up finding later on my degree is the total of it is the Bachelor's of Science in Environmental Science, Resource Management, Wildlife Conservation. So that's a lot long, but I took a lot of classes in there in regards to learning about the environment, learning about conservation of animals. But I just knew I wanted to translate that somehow to zookeeping. But I would say not really there in class that I learned what my bigger mission was. I learned it while I was working at the zoos. While I was there, with my jobs, while I was there, I learned that I had a bigger mission.
All right. So we're going to leave people with that note. We're going to talk a little bit about the mission. We're going to talk about what he's doing out here. He's traveling all across, just giving a great message. Folks, we'll be right back after these messages.
When you give to United Way, your gift could be the first spark of something bigger. It can help someone find, interview for, and get hired for a job, and provide follow-up services for success. It can break down educational barriers and give that extra help to a struggling student with in-school support programs. Give today. Spark something bigger.
The NoPixAfterDark podcast is fueled by Zeke's Coffee. Have you tried their coffee yet? I'm telling you, there's something different about it. Maybe it's because they roast their beans in a fluid coffee roaster, which provides the most accurate roasting temperatures and made with love. You will just have to check it out for yourself and try their delicious food while you're at it. Open now for curbside service, online ordering, carry out, and they also do wholesale. Visit Zeke's Coffee at 4719 Hartford Road. Open Monday through Friday, 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. and Sunday, 8 to 5 p.m. Kitchen closes at 3 p.m. or visit Zeke'sCoffee.com and you too can be fueled by Zeke's.
Quick 2-second break. And then
Yeah, sorry. I was trying not to like go straight into the next thing. I was like, oops, let me stop.
That was a good call.
Okay.
All right. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And folks, we are back. Amazing episode. We're celebrating Black History Month. We're celebrating people who are doing amazing things. And you know what? When you go to the zoo, how many black zookeepers do you see? I don't know. Think about that. Not a lot. And I've always said in my podcast, NoPixAfterDark Podcast, that representation matters. You know, and if I see somebody doing what I'm like, which I aspire or maybe might want to do, let me try it out. Let me figure it out. So, for our amazing guest, Mr. Jungle Jordan, how are you, sir?
Pretty good.
And thank you so much for telling the first part of your story. That was really inspirational about just everything and about getting a scholarship, going to school, driving. How far was that drive to get to that university? To drop off that?
It was about 30, 40 minutes, 45 minutes. Yeah.
And you know what? You did it. You didn't regret it. And you went and did it. And that's what I love about that story. You just went ahead and did it. So let's talk about the mission. You were about to talk about it. I didn't want to give everybody all of it right away, but you found your mission working at the zoo.
Right.
What mission was that? Talk a little bit about it. Let's talk about what you have going on. I tell people it's your show. I just sit here and listen.
It's all good. No, I talk a lot sometimes, so my bad.
All good, brother.
So basically what's going on is I use my platform, so social media, Jungle Jordan on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, all that stuff, right? I use that to basically get my face out there and be representative for diversity in the animal field, the zoo world, aquarium world, whatever, and all of that in the science field, because there's not many of us out there and we don't get represented enough, but that all stems for the reason why I wanted to be, more visible, was because I always felt kind of awkward working at the different zoos that I've been at. It wasn't really like staff and coworkers made me feel that way, at least not knowingly, right? They're not trying to, but a lot of times I've had, guests make random comments about, my appearance, jokes, different things like that. I had an encounter with a volunteer one day that kind of shook me and really bothered me. Basically, people didn't really see, black people in this kind of role, and it looks very odd, especially when you're a 6'4" black dude that, yes, can play basketball. Yeah, I'm good at basketball, okay, but that's not all I can do, but that's just an assumption that people make, right? Stereotypes and all that. But, I always felt like I couldn't be myself. I felt like I kind of had to always put on a smile. I could never show signs of me being upset or frustrated or sad or anything like that, because if I do, immediate labels will come out,
Angry black man,
right? So I always felt like I had to tiptoe around people and I couldn't be myself. And I just remember one day, I was kind of just tired of all of this. And there was a kid, I was working with hippos, and this kid walked up to me. He looked just like me, and I was kind of just, standing out there and tossing food to the hippos. And he was like, "Oh, started asking me questions like over and over, like many questions about the hippos, and then he asked me at the end, "Are you the zookeeper?" I was like, "Yeah." He goes, "Cool. I want to be like you. I want to be this. I want to be a zookeeper." And so this was like shortly coming off this interaction I had with the volunteer that I don't have to talk about, but that was a moment that I needed to make it more serious to have a mission to be representative for people to feel as though that they can follow their passions no matter what they look like. It doesn't have to be animal care. Yeah, that's my area of expertise is animals and giving out information about animals, but I realize I have a bigger purpose to get these people, representation.
I love that. I love that. That was that during your college years, or was that after you graduated from college?
This is I graduated, so at this point, this is years later. I kind of skipped a few steps.
No, you're good. You're good.
I skipped quite a few years. So I guess let me preface it. So with video stuff, I always kind of like love making videos, and I was dabbling in it here and there with the zoo on my own a little bit, but not like anything serious,
Mhm.
right? Like I wasn't really good with. I didn't know how to edit back then. I didn't know how to do any of that. I was pretty awful on camera. It's something I learned how to do. And I would say I started the name Jungle Jordan in 2017, 2018, 2017. I had my channel in 2016. I started making videos kind of in 2016 on my own.
I love it.
Yeah, and then 2018 came about, and that's when I was like, you know what, I gotta make a name. And Jungle Jordan became kind of catchy.
Well, it stuck. It stuck, right?
It stuck, yeah.
You felt that was like a. Now you were pretty much like doing all this, and did you see any other black zookeepers or anything like that doing anything online with animals, or just like because
Mm.
I'm even thinking back when I'm just thinking off the top of my head, I can't think of any. Wow, I can't think of anybody I've seen online besides you that has done anything like this.
No, at the time back then, there wasn't any, there wasn't many, much, any black people doing, like zoo video type stuff. I would say a couple years ago there was a couple quote unquote influencers that were doing animal stuff that were, that are black. That Brother Nature guy, but okay, I'll leave that at that. No, I'm not hating on anybody. I'm just it's very different what
Right.
Brother Nature does. And then I think when I first was getting bigger with my page, a lot of people, when I told them what I did, they immediately would try to connect me with the real Tarzan. You ever heard of him?
No, I have not. I have not.
Yeah. So he's also a black dude that basically talks about animals, but in a little different, in a very different way than I do.
Okay.
And yeah, but back then though, nobody was really doing this kind of stuff, and I barely saw, if any, black zookeepers. I think maybe one. Yeah, like at least in my state at the time.
Now, what would you say your style is online? Like, far as when people, because people are going to look after this, they're going to come and check your page out.
Right.
What would you say your style? Like, they have young children who are interested in the zoo. What's your style?
So I try to be appropriate for all all ages. I'm fun, friendly. I'll make fun, like little jokes here and there. I'll do skits every now and then. But I do a lot of educational, fun content. Yeah, I go out in the wild sometimes and look for animals myself, but I'm not gonna pull a old school Steve Irwin and dive on an animal. It's not my thing, because I don't want to promote that for other people to try to do, because that should be something that only professionals do, right? For something specific that they're doing. Yeah, I'm not going to be wrestling any crocodiles any day soon. That's just not me.
Hey,
But I had definitely dealt with a lot of dangerous animals, like venomous snakes, right, like rattlesnakes and stuff. I've handled a lot of dangerous animals like that, but I'm not. Yeah, again, I'm not trying to like hate on anybody that does that. That's just not for me.
yeah, I remember we were at the Maryland Zoo, and there was a crocodile or alligator rolling just by itself. And everybody was
Yeah,
like,
there was a little presentation animal. Yeah.
and I was like, yeah, I'm good. I know how fast they are, so I'm good.
See, that doesn't bother me. It's like that kind of stuff. Again,
Mhm.
the thing is with my videos, I showcase professionals handling animals,
Hmm.
right? But I'm not just showcasing that, hey, these animals make great pets, and hey, I'm gonna go out there and dive into a lagoon or whatever you call those things and dive on whatever it is in there. That's just not for me.
Right.
But there are some guys out there that actually that do it very educationally. Oh gosh, the caveman wildlife crew. Those
Okay.
guys are I really respect those guys. I think Christian Cave was like the main guy in the group. He
Yes.
wears glasses. So those are really cool dudes, and they really know what they're talking, and they're big.
Well, when did you know you had something? Like when did you know like you're like, wow, people are following me, people are commenting, people want me to come to their zoos, people want me to come and talk.
Yeah.
When did you really when was that turning point when you're like, it got real? It got real.
I would say 2021.
Okay.
That was when. So 2019 was when I was surprised by, I don't know if I can talk about this, but there were certain companies that were reaching out to me talking about, potentially talking about TV shows.
Okay.
And I was like, really? Really? Why? Like
Yeah.
I was like, do I really have something? Like, am I really like, am I okay at this? Or probably even before that, I would say 2018, the end of 2018, there was a conference that was in Seattle,
Okay.
at the zoo that I worked. And then part of my job, for being being the host, the host zoo, we had a lot of open house areas, like the keepers and staff from other zoos would come and visit our stuff.
Mm.
So I would walk them through the giraffe area or the hippo area. And I remember I had to give a hippo talk, and there was a bunch of people there watching. And then once I was done giving the talk, I had a few people come up to me and say, "Hey, I know you. You're Jordan. You make videos, blah 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 blah." And so it's like, oh, so I'm kind of somewhat known in the zoo community,
Mm.
But I was like, in my head, that's cool, right? I really appreciate what they're saying, but there was so much more that I know that I have to do.
Mm.
And I think it started to become more real. I would say, 2020, when the pandemic hit, and I was doing the TikTok Learning Creator Fund thing, and I was making TikToks, and I was like, oh man, I feel like the old guy on here, and I was looking like a fool on there, but I saw how many people were engaging with those videos and how much they really enjoyed animal content.
Mm.
And just social media that way, has been pushing, and then all these random folks who are famous, quote unquote famous, they're famous people, are starting to follow me now, and I'm like, me? No. Like, I'm very hard on myself,
Mhm.
and I don't see. I know they're just regular people, but it's kind of like surprising to see it, But I don't know. Things got real fast.
I mean, when I met you, you had a camera guy with you.
Yeah.
You were doing footage.
Yeah.
I mean, that's pretty big to me. You coming from the West Coast and you got a camera guy. And then I even heard you gave a speech to the conference that was so passionate that you had a standing ovation.
It was.
Hey, hey, we gotta give you your flowers, brother. We gotta give you your flowers, like, because as a young kid, say the flowers. For my listeners who don't know what the flowers means, that means giving the props, giving credit where credit's due. We gotta do it. We have to do it, sir,
I
because
appreciate that.
we don't do this. When are we not gonna do this?
Yeah. No, I'm very. I do I do find myself kind of hard on myself because I feel like, I don't want to say I'm not going to be satisfied until, until I reach certain levels, but that's no matter what happens, no matter how many views my videos get, in my head, for some reason, I feel like I'm not reaching enough people. I'm not making enough impact. And that's just kind of my issue. I think that's what pushes me so hard. But I know I've been learning in therapy that I need to slow down and appreciate all the wins, big or small. So that's what I'm learning.
And that's why we got you here today. We want to celebrate you, sir, and what you're doing out here and what you're doing spectacular and making the way for others. Because I'm sure there's somebody's mom, dad, uncle, whoever it may be, saying, I know somebody who loves animals. I would love to take them to the zoo and whatnot. And we really appreciate you. Now, do you ever travel around the U.S. to visiting other places?
Yeah.
How often do you do that? Is that normally like a summertime thing, or is that spring, or visiting other zoos? And if you do, when are you next time you come back to the East Coast? Northeast, the Mid-Atlantic.
So last year was a big travel year for me. It was a huge travel year. I would say it started early spring in March, and so every month I think March, April. I don't think I went anywhere in May, and in June, July, August, which is when I saw you, and October, and November. So I was busy, and I was kind of all over the states. So last year I went to Houston, Texas, Cincinnati, Louisville Zoo. I met some really cool people with this program called Future Healers, and then Future Healers got Zoo Buddies. So it's a really cool program where inner city kids get to go to the zoo to learn about zookeeping. Really young kids. So all these kids were exposed to gun violence and drugs and all these different things, and they're coming forward to hang out with zoo people. And the Future Healers program is what it's the main program, and it's thrown by a guy named Chris 2X, I believe, and they show these guys the medical side of things. So I did that. Went to the conference in Maryland. Went to DC. I was in California, Denver, so Colorado Springs. I was pretty out there. San Francisco. I was all over.
You were traveling.
I was traveling. I was kind of forcing it to happen. I wanted to, reach out to the facilities and, get content and share stories from each facility. But this year, I'm currently scheduling things. There was a bit of a giant life change for me at I would say right after right when I met you.
Okay.
There was a pretty big life change for me. That kind of it kind of changed my mindset a bit. And kind of it definitely it's been it was a very stressful moment, stressful time, and that's what I am kind of still going through right now. But I'm trying to continue to better myself and be a better person. So
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. And if you do come back to the Mid-Atlantic, so let's just when you do come back, I want to do a talk with you with a live audience, because I feel like that's very important. Your message, I think, is so important. I think that we open our horizons and open our brains and say, there's more than sports. There's nothing wrong with sports, but there's so many different avenues out there of learning, about snakes, learning about like orcas, like you were talking about, just different animals of the animal kingdom that are so amazing. Every time I go to the zoo, I'm always blown away. I go to the Maryland Zoo. I shouldn't say the National Zoo because they get mad at me, but National in Washington D.C. is right down the street. So and they just blow me away with these amazing animals. And seeing somebody like yourself doing this is a blessing because it's inspiring and you have an inspiring channel on YouTube, and I just really, really appreciate what you're doing out here. And what do you want people to walk away from this interview after, just so from you and I talking?
So first off, I want to say thank you for definitely having me on and inviting me, and I definitely can't wait to come down there. We can definitely talk about that off the air, or we can talk about it right now. I'm messing with you. So what I want people to take away from this interaction and interview that we're having is that, again, my mission is to get people to understand that they should follow their passions no matter what obstacles may come in their way, no matter what people will try to convince them that they should be doing instead. Like, and this is family too. Family and friends will even get in your ear about, hey, you won't make any money doing that. If you're really passionate about something, you will, how they say, like, you'll never work a day in your life if you love what you're doing, that whole thing.
Right.
Like, it's kind of true. Like, I mean, no, but it's not true, but it's kind of true, because, I'm definitely working, but when I go to visit to those zoo visits and hang out with the staff, I am in heaven because I get to hear how passionate they are about working with the animals, and I get to be around animals all day. Like, I don't know. It makes me happy to see people learn something new. So basically, kind of cliche, but follow your passions.
I love that. So now we're gonna plug your YouTube, plug your TikTok, every social media, so people can find you, subscribe, all that good stuff. Go ahead.
So you guys can all follow me at Jungle Jordan 23 on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook. I have a YouTube channel. I think you just type in Jungle Jordan, it'll pop up. But most of my videos you'll see are on Instagram and TikTok.
All right, folks, you heard it here. We're celebrating Black History Month. We're celebrating some people out here doing amazing things. They may not be living in Baltimore, but guess what? They're doing some amazing things all across the United States of America. And we appreciate you. I know it's early out there for you. It's a little bit late for me. I'm normally sleep at 8:30 over here. But you know what? You're worth it, brother, to really sit down and talk with you. And I really think it's very important that my audience listens to you and learns a little bit about you. So maybe, spring break's coming up. They're going to go to the zoo and check out some things at the zoo. And, we'll try to tell Mike Evans, bring you back to Maryland, to the Maryland Zoo. And definitely enjoy one of the spots.
What's your favorite animal? You didn't tell me that.
Oh, wow. So, I've always been a sucker for the cheetah.
Have we talked about this?
No, we've never talked about this.
We have never talked about this.
So my son and I watch these animal shows all the time on on Disney. I think it's National Geographic.
Yeah, Disney Plus.
Mm-hmm. And he loves the cheetahs. Mm-hmm. He loves the lions and cheetahs. There's something about it. And he just loves how the paws, and just something about, he loves, like, when he's like, here they come. He gets so excited. And so him and I just get so excited and just watch it. And something about that they run so quickly, but then they get tired right away. So they can't run as hard. Which is wild. And then it's very fascinating. So I really like that. And then I was watching National Geographic. There's lions in Africa that actually live in the trees. And it was like wild, because like it's a certain part, like where they just live in the tree. It was wild. And I'm like, the lion came after me. I couldn't really ground climb a tree because they can do.
And you sure it was a lion?
Yeah, it's African lion. It was crazy. It was National Geographic out. They were hunting for these lions. It was
interesting.
Odd. It was odd. They like hang out in the trees, and we'll talk offline. I'll let you know about it. But it was wild.
So, go ahead. I asked you because I didn't expect that answer literally at all. But my favorite animal is the cheetah.
Oh wow!
And I'm legit wearing a cheetah shirt.
Nice.
So that they're literally that was unexpected.
Hey,
that was unscripted.
Great minds. That was not scripted, folks. Great minds think alike. But animal, I will tell people, the animal I do not like, and I shouldn't say this.
Okay.
It's snakes. I don't deal with snakes.
That's okay.
Because I used to live in Texas, and I remember one day my dad was like, Aaron, go get that somebody toy stick that somebody left outside. And I remember I walked down that hill and that rattle just started rattling. And I said, oh no, that's nobody's toy snake. He just laying there, just basking because it was sunny, the sun was out, he was suntanning,
Yeah.
I said, and he rattled, looked at me. I said, nope, and then I saw coral snakes and I was like, nope.
Ooh, careful.
Yeah, I saw a coral snake and I was like, nope. I don't want to learn about red on yellow, black on white. I don't want to learn. I don't want to see how far that goes. I saw what I need to see. So I'm not a snake person at all.
I get it.
I probably, if I saw a snake slithering down the street, I probably would have a heart attack and be like, you know what? I'm good.
I can tell you this though.
Okay.
Just tell you to everybody that's listening out there, snakes are not out to get you. They are literally enjoying their day trying to survive. Now, some people tell stories about snakes chasing them, but that is always incorrect. I'm going to tell you why.
Okay.
These snakes, all they're trying to do is they realize that the quickest path to their escape is probably right behind you. You're probably standing right where their shelter was. So they're just trying to get back to where they came from. They're not wanting to come at you. So that's a big confusion about with snakes. So even venomous snakes are not out to get you.
He dropped jewels and gems right there, folks. We're going to leave it on that note. Jungle Jordan, thank you so much, sir, for coming on the show. Again, rattle off. Where can they find you again? We got to get before we get out. Go ahead.
Jungle Jordan 23 on every single social media platform: TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube.
All right. And folks, you know where to find me, NoPixAfterDark Podcast. You watching it. Thank you guys for listening. Subscribe, hit that subscribe button on YouTube, whatever, Spotify, Apple, wherever you listen and watch your shows. Folks, love, peace. Black History is 365 days of the year. Have a good night.